In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But for some, war begins long before the battlefield. It starts in the cradle of despair, in the underbelly of a hive city where hope is a whisper drowned out by the roar of manufactorums and the cries of the starving. This is the story of Trooper Elias Voss, a name that would mean nothing in the vast ledgers of the Departamento Munitorum, yet a soul entangled in the web of the Imperium's endless crusade. Born into the squalor of Hive Primus on Necromunda, Elias's life was a prelude to the horrors that awaited him in the Astra Militarum. This thriller unfolds through his eyes, a tale of survival against insurmountable odds, where every ally could be a heretic, every shadow hides a Xenos abomination, and the Emperor's light feels like a fading candle in the void. Layer by layer, we'll peel back the veneer of glory to reveal the soul-crushing reality beneath. Recruitment as a death sentence, training as torture, battles as annihilation, and hope as the cruelest deception. Ike, strap in for this epic descent into madness, where one man's fight mirrors the Imperium's fragile hold on existence. The galaxy is vast, but for a guardsman, it's a coffin closing in. Elias Voss opened his eyes to the dim glow of a flickering lumen strip, the only light in the cramped hab block he called home. Home. The air was thick with the stench of unwashed bodies, chemical runoff from the upper levels, and the perpetual hum of failing machinery that vibrated through the walls like a distant earthquake. Hive Primus was a vertical hell, a megacity on Necromunda, where billions were stacked in layers of misery. The spires pierced the toxic skies, blotting out the sun that Elias had only heard about in old tales from his grandmother. Stories of a world where air didn't burn your lungs and water didn't taste like rust. Whoa. But those were myths for the elite in the spire tops, who feasted on imported delicacies while servo skulls attended their whims. Down here in the Underhive, survival was a daily war against gangs, mutants, and starvation. Elias was 16, though he looked older, his frame lean and scarred from scavenging in the sludge pits. His mother, a gaunt woman with hollow eyes, worked 16-hour shifts in the manufactorum, forging lasgun parts for the very Imperium that ignored their plight. His father had vanished years ago, claimed by a gang war or perhaps a conscription sweep no one knew. Elias and his younger sister, Mira, foraged for scraps, dodging the spiders, a vicious gang that ruled their level with chain blades and stub guns. Life expectancy was 30 if you were lucky, but luck was a rare commodity. Disease rampaged through the levels, plagues that turned flesh to mush, bones to brittle shards, or eyes to weeping sores. Elias had lost friends to the black cough, their bodies dumped in the waste chutes to feed the rats below. One night, as Elias huddled with Mira over a meager meal of synth protein gruel, the sirens wailed, not for an invasion, but for the tithe. The conscript officers descended like reapers, their carapace armor clanking against the metal grates. They burst into hab blocks, auspex scanners beeping as they assessed worth. Strength, health, defiance, anything that might last a day on the front lines. Elias was in the scrapyard, salvaging wiring for their lumen globe when they cornered him. "You're coming with us, boy," growled the lead enforcer, his voice distorted through a Vox grill. Elias's heart pounded. He thought of Mira, alone now, and his mother, who would break without him. But resistance meant death. A nearby Ganger tried to fight, his stub gun barking once before a shock maul crushed his skull. The choice was simple: join or be executed as a deserter. Planetary governors tithed regiments to avoid extermination, and Necromunda's hives were ripe for harvest. Elias was yanked from his life, leaving Mira's cries echoing in his ears. Herded with hundreds of others, children as young as 12, elders barely walking, they were processed in vast halls under harsh lights. Stripped naked, probed by Medici servitors with cold appendages, gang tattoos, burned away with acid. The pain was searing, but Elias bit down, knowing worse awaited. They branded him with the Aquila, a mark of ownership, and issued a uniform. As they boarded the transport ship, a hulking void, behemoth crewed by press-ganged voidsmen, the indoctrination began. Commissars in black greatcoats patrolled, preaching the Emperor's divinity over voxcasters. "Doubt is heresy," they intoned, branding any whisper of discontent. Elias was crammed into holds, bunks stacked high, air recycling with a fetid tang. Prayers were mandatory, chanted until throats rasped. One recruit muttered complaints. A bolt round silenced him forever, body spaced as an example. Space travel was a nightmare. Space travel was a nightmare. The warp, a roiling sea of chaos, had to be traversed. Geller fields shimmered, a barrier against horrors, but storms raged. Visions bled through, demonic faces promising power. Elias saw comrades gibber, eyes rolled back, as entities tempted. Kara, a fellow recruit, sprouted tentacles, twisting into something unholy. Flamers purged her, screams echoing. Many arrived insane or mutated, executed before planetfall. By disembarkation, Elias was broken, a shadow reshaped for war. But the real misery was just starting. Planetfall on Catachan was like stepping into a predator's jaws. The death world was a green inferno, jungles teeming with venomous flora and fauna that claimed half the recruits in the first week. Massive carnivorous plants like Venus montraps snapped shut, acidic innards dissolving flesh. Barking scorpions the size of hounds injected venom that liquefied organs. Quicksand pits swallowed whole squads, and spiker beasts tore through armor with ease. Trainers were grizzled Catachan veterans, muscles corded like steel, scars from 1,000 close calls. They laughed at screams. They laughed at screams. "The jungle takes the weak," they growled, "so the Emperor can have the strong." Drills were endless. Marksmanship ranges where lasguns fired until shoulders ached and barrels glowed. The lasgun snapped with crimson bolts, but against an Ork's hide, it felt like spitting wind. Bayonet practice followed, charging holographic Orks, thrusting and twisting with feral desperation. Food was nutrient paste extruded from vats, tasting like wet ash. Water rationed from condensers pulling moisture from toxic air. Sleep, sleep. 4 hours on good nights in barracks were snores mixed with whimpers. Sergeants woke with shock prods for infractions. Mental forging was brutal. Commissars stalked, eyes sharp for weakness. Stragglers executed to motivate. Elias saw one recruit shot for cowardice in a simulation. body twitching as the platoon marched on. "Your life is expendable," they intone. The guard wins through numbers. A space marine worth 1,000 guardsmen. And Elias believed it. Luca, a Valhallan with stories of frozen tundras, became a brother. They shared whispers of home, fragile in the despair. Heresy lurked. Elias reported a mutterer watching him burn to save himself. Training culminated in live exercises, navigating jungles with traps, ambushing mock Xenos. Elias's group faced a real threat, a devil's claw beast. It mauled two before Elias's last gun felled it, earning a nod from trainers. Yet horror lingered. One night, a warp-tainted recruit mutated, killing 3 before Purge. Elias wondered if the Whispers followed him. Transferred to Krieg for advanced training, Elias entered a rad-blasted wasteland. The world was scarred by ancient wars, surface a toxic hell. Recruits trained in trenches, faces masked against fallout. Radiation sickness claimed many, hair clumping out, skin blistering, hemorrhaging. Drills in contaminated soil, advancing under simulated fire, digging faster than bombardment. Chanting litanies of atonement for Krieg's sins. Krieg's death corps viewed life as penance, marching with suicidal zeal. Life as penance, marching with suicidal zeal. Elias learned attrition warfare, siege tactics, disregarding casualties. Commissars were relentless, executing for hesitation. Indoctrination deepened. Emperor's catechisms at dawn, thanks at dusk. Elias's squad bonded over shared suffering, but trust was tenuous. A suspected heretic was reported executed. Live drills in rad storms, visibility 0, mutants lurking. Elias's group ambushed by rad ghouls, twisted humans. He killed one, its face hauntingly familiar. As training ended, assignment came. Mixed regiment with Valhallans, Mordians, Talern. Elias with Luca in Valhallan Ice Warriors. Traditions harsh as homeworlds. But heresy shadowed. A comrade whispered doubt. Elias reported joining the firing line in silence. Deployment loomed, a bolter to the gut. Deployment to Armageddon's ash wastes was chaos. Drop pods screamed through atmosphere, landers disgorging under anti-air fire. Orks swarmed like locusts, crude machines belching smoke. Elias's home was a muddy trench, shared with dog-sized rats and plague-breeding corpses. The stench, overwhelming, rot, cordite body. Routine ground him. 400 reve, cleaning las gun or lashes. 600 corpse, starch rations, cannibalism whispers. 800 advance, lost bolt sizzling. Noon hold as basilisks thundered. Evening bury dead. Night watch infiltrators. Misery compounded. Trenchfoot rotting, loss burn scarring, artillery deafening. Officers barked from bunkers, charging into hell. Against orcs, melee brutal. Greenskins crashing. War bosses towering, laughing off lost fire. Elias, fixed bayonet, charging, pulped comrades around. One ambush. Squig swarm overran. Luca devoured. Elias survived, scarred, driven by fear of Commissar's pistol. Stories of cracking, Kaidia regiment overrun by demons, possessed brothers. Commissars executed retreaters. Glimmers. Shared low stick. Faith chants. Better die for Emperor. But a lie clung to. A day. Dawn polish, las gun, drill, rations, advance under fire, hold, vigil, sentry jumping at shadows. Multiplied by months no rotations. serve till death. Reassigned to Macraga's defense, Tyranids descended like plagues. High fleet behemoth, chittering swarms blotting skies with spore clouds, battles, Hormagaunts leaping with talons, carving flak like paper. Carnifexes thundering, bioplasma melting squads, Genestealers slithered vents, hypnotic gaze, turning friends foes. Elias saw a man-infested, chest-bursting horrors, guardsmen biomass, ultramarines heroes. Elias's squad held a breach but overrun, survivors purged for taint. Thriller tension, lurking lictors, ambushes in dark paranoia of cults. Elias killed a hybrid, face like Lucas, haunting. Attrition endless, hope fading. On a tomb world, Necrons awakened with silence, skeletal warriors clicking, Gauss flares stripping atom by atom. No screams, cold efficiency, reforming in green glows, destroyers skimmed, monoliths teleporting. Destroyer skimmed, monoliths teleport. Elias's regiment fought attrition, no morale to break, endless resurrection. Thriller, eerie silence before awakening, tombs cracking, pursuit through ruins. Elias destroyed a scarab, but losses mounted, names forgotten. Kadea gate against eye of terror. Abaddon's crusades unleashed demons warping reality, bloodletters hacking, plague-bearers rotting flesh. Guardsmen mutated mid-battle, tentacles sprouting, turning allies. Inquisition purged regiments, burning alive for contamination. Read alive for contamination. Elias witnessed a brother possess, eyes glowing, tearing with hands. Thriller, whispers returning, doubt seeding, commissar hunt for traitors. Elias reported, but paranoia grew. Was he next? Eldar struck like ghosts. Farseers predicting, shuriken, shredding. Dark Eldar raids abducted for arenas, torture by homunculi. Tau outgunned with pulse rifles, propaganda drones tempting surrender. Commissars intervened, executing Waveras. Elias resisted Tau offers, but doubt lingered. Thriller, ambush by Eldar, chase through webways, Tau infiltration. Webways, Tau infiltration. Vrex siege. Millions died, reclaiming Forge, falling to Nurgle's rot. Heroes like Yarick inspired, but exceptions. Elias survived Orc ambush. Squad lost to Squigs, pressed on from fear. Guardsman ammunition, expendable. Hope, Steel Legion tanks thundering, Sisters purifying, Space Marines dropping. The Emperor protects, chanted amid burns. Elias found faith in a chaplain's words. Thriller, desperate stand, reinforcements turning tide, but cost high. Wounded, amputations with chain swords, no anesthesia. Captured, Dark Eldar experiments. Desertion, hunted by Arbites. Desertion, hunted by Arbites. Death, servitors lobotomized or dreadnought tombs. Elias's end, fatal wound recycled, name forgotten. The guardsman's life embodies cruelty, a billion sacrificed. Without them, humanity falls. They are the hammer, forged in suffering, broken in war.